Hello guys, back to the class. So today we set to enter into chapter number 1, unit 1. Okay. So basically, since we're going to attend only the multiple choice questions, our understanding of the subject coupled with the way in which the questions might be asked in examination. For example, every time you study a paragraph or a study material, things, what you have to concentrate is that how can question be formed from this paragraph. What kind of questions can be formed from this paragraph? Is it important or is it not so important? So that kind of clarity is very, very, very important. Since as a beginner, as a student, will not be able to bifurcate which paragraphs are very important, which is unimportant, because we don't have that kind of exposure. So we have taken that effort, and I have totally simplified the entire unit 1 into some 6 or 7 pages. So these these notes that I'm going to give you, so how many pages do we have here? We have roughly 6 to 7 pages, and I've cut short in the entire unit into few important paragraphs. So once you go through this notes that I'm going to give it to you, so it will suffice for your examination. It is more than sufficient for your examination. Just listen to the class and then just look at the notes I'm going to give to you, and then you have to understand the notes, that is the summarized notes that I've given to you. It's very, very, very important. Once you finish reading this, then we'll go to the MCQs given at the back or given at the end of the chapter. So that way it will help us to learn in a very systematic and methodical way. Okay, so without any further ado, we'll get into the chapter. So first, this is a very, very, very basic introduction chapter. It really needs a lot of nuances or detailed understanding, not even understanding, I would say detailed observation is required here, because in the total unit, okay, in this entire first unit, they're only talking about what is economics and what is business economics, and they're talking about two different types of economics called as microeconomics and macroeconomics. And they say when we do business, all we think about is only microeconomics, because microeconomics deals with the resources available and how are we going to use it and what type of product we are going to launch and all those things. So when it comes to business economics, we are 90% we are using only microeconomics, because that actually helps us sail through the operational issues. So that's the one thing they're talking about. And they're also talking about, as a business doesn't operate in a vacuum space. So business also really needs a reality check of what is happening in their macro environment. And only when you know what is happening in your macro environment as a business or as a micro micro unit as a business, you'll be able to perform your microeconomics well. So business economics is a put together of micro and macroeconomics, and microeconomics basically helps you in the operational issues, and macroeconomics tells you about the environment, the social environment, the economic environment, the entire macroeconomic level of the country, so on and so forth. So basically they are only talking about these few things. Okay, I have told you, what are all the things that they're talking here about. They're talking about, one, they're talking about economics. Okay, and then they're talking about what do you mean by business economics. Okay, and then they're talking about what is the what is the origin of economics, and where from we got the word economics, or whether it is from Greek word or Latin word, and who wrote the first book of modern economics and something like that. And then they're talking about they're talking about macroeconomics. Okay, and how micro and macroeconomics are being embedded in the business economics, and that's all. Then they go to summary. So precisely, if you want to summarize the entire chapter 1, it is as simple as this: what is economics, what is business economics, what is micro, what is macro, and how micro and macro are being used in the business economics, and how economics differ from, wait a second, and how eco as an example differs from business economics. So these are the main things that they're discussing in your chapter 1, unit 1. And to make the class more understandable, not to make it more interesting, also it makes the class interesting, but my predominant idea to make the class more interesting or more understandable? I want to make it more understandable than to make it interesting, because there are classes which are more interesting, very, 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 too much of interest quotient. But then when it comes to examination, you remember all those interesting news, but then when it comes to examination, you do not know how to crack the MCQs. That should not be the case. You will curse me in the examination, right? So we have to load the news articles or any other macroeconomic issue that we're going to talk about here with that of the study material. So our predominant focus or our prime focus is to have clarity in the study material with the help of these news or articles or anything that we find from the external media. Okay, so the external media about which we talk here, or see, for example, here we're going to talk about Elon Musk, here we're going to talk about a medical firm, we're going to talk about Tim Cook, or we're going to talk about cocoa butter, we're going to talk about many people here, about China, about Japan's semiconductor industry, we're going to talk about the Truecaller app here, we're going to talk about many things, but these many things should not cloud your understanding of economics. That's the very, very, very in principle demand for us. What is demanded by you? You demand mark. You demand passing CA foundation. You demand understanding of study material, and not just about, I should not cloud you with all these newspapers. These articles and issues and all external media that I'm talking about should help you understand the subject material or subject matter of economics or study material. So first our prime focus should be understanding the study material with the help of Elon Musk, with the help of Sam Altman, or with the help of Japan, with the help of boat example. Here we have the boat audio wearables and all that. So here we are taking the help of so many companies, okay, that are operating in our not so vacuum macroeconomy. So in our economy, there are multiples and multiples of companies that's operating. With few examples starting from boat and nammayatri.com or Ola, Uber, Adidas. With the help of these companies and their strategies and what they have done in their own business travel, we are learning from their mistakes, we are learning from their success, we are learning from their travel, and then we are going to incorporate those examples, those inspirations, or those value additions that they give us with our subject matter, with our study material. Okay, so basically they're talking here about nature and scope of business economics. First, I'd like to tell you what is economics. Economics is simply put how in the world, or how in your country, or how in your district, individuals like you and me and companies like Tata and Reliance, and smaller, very, very, very small startups like Ola, Uber or Nammayatri, or it is not even talked about like a startup, but small shops like corner shops, you have Nadar Kadai, or some kiosk or some kirana shops at the end of your street. Everybody, individuals, business, okay, startups or small shops here and there, everybody put together what they do for their own living, and how the choices or decision making or their operations of individuals, businesses, government, everybody put together, how it's being enacted in a very bigger way. Okay, that is called as economics basically. Now, we are not just talking about economics, because here we are not taking economics as a major study. Okay, here we are using economics in chartered accountancy. So for a chartered accountant, for a professional, for a business professional, what is their perspective? What is the way in which they want to understand economics? They are trying to take economics in a business sense. So here they are trying to explain it to you in business, how do we use economics. So as in, if you ask a economics major, I would obviously very happy to talk about fiscal policy or repo rate or reverse repo rate, or the interest rate at which the Reserve Bank of India is going to lend money to State Bank of India. These are all the vital, most important issues that a major economic student would look at. But when it comes to a chartered accountant, he has to look at economics with a different lens, because he is going to use the knowledge that it's going to attain from economics and put it through the lens of business, and he has to use that knowledge to understand the business empire, to understand the business sphere. So that is how here they're talking about, because when we studied economics, when I studied economics in my majors, okay, in my masters, they never talked about what is business economics. Do you know why business economics so important? No, there were not talks about it, because there we went to study only for how economics is actually, policing, how it acts as the major, major social science and the madri. But here they're talking about economics only in terms of business, because here business matters. Here business is everything. Business matters a lot. So here we are going to talk about business economics. So how business economics and economics differ. So that is also a separate paragraph that's been given in your book. So that also we will discuss. That's the end part. That there they discuss about what is the difference between economics and business economics. So what are the things that we're going to discuss here? Economics, business economics, difference between economics and business economics. What is microeconomics? What is macroeconomics? And they're going to talk about how microeconomics is used in business and how macroeconomics is going to be used in business. Okay, this is the basic introduction with which we are going to enter into the chapter. So now they're talking about what you can see here. See, each and every page is very important. Here we are not going to jump and go. Here we're going to go slowly, line by line, because it is very, very, very important for your examination point of view. So here we have nature and scope of business economics. So I've told you what is business economics, right? Using the economics, using the theories and policies, or using the knowledge that you attain by studying economics, you're going to apply in how you do business, how you operate business, how you're going to apply your economics knowledge in the business forum. That is called as business economics. So they are bifurcating that into two. What is it? Micro and macro. Micro, I have told you, micro means small and macro means big. Okay. And then we have what is the nature of business economics. Of course, they're going to talk to you about what is the specialty, nature, what is the scope of business economics. So business economics, basically, they're going to tell you it is based on microeconomics, because they're not going to study about unemployment in business, right? Business only targets what is my profit, how do I make profit, how do I become big, how do I get listed in the NASDAQ, and the Madan they're going to talk about. So they are not going to concentrate more on what happened to the economies, unemployment, what is the poverty level, or how the infrastructure has gone up. They're not going to concentrate much on the macroeconomics. So basically, business, they are more concentrated on microeconomics. And of course, it's a science, it is an art. Okay, they'll call economics is a science or art. Of course, it's a mix of both. For example, studying about heart is science. Okay, how do you perform a heart surgery is art. So even though studying about economics, studying about cause and effect relationship comes under science, even if you think that yes, economics is all about cause and effect relationship, if price goes up, the demand comes down, it is a science. But then you're using that knowledge in running a business. Okay, running a business is no joke. Running a business requires a lot of art of doing business, because you have two brothers. One is Mukesh Ambani and the other one is Anil Ambani. Today, Mukesh Ambani is very famous, very big, successful, but Anil Ambani is a failure. So here, both of them would have gone to the same university, learned the same knowledge, learned the same courses maybe. They've been, upbringing might be more or less same, but then at the end of the day, who has made big success? Who has been overshadowed? Okay, Anil Ambani is overshadowed by Mukesh Ambani. So yeah, of course, it is an art of doing business. Learning is different, learning is different, attaining the knowledge is different, observing is different, attending classes is different, but then how do you utilize the knowledge attained into the business forum is completely different. So here they're talking about economics as a science. Yes, it has a lot of theory, but then you also have to understand economics is also an art of applying. You apply the art of your knowledge into how to run a business. So here they're talking about, yes, business economics is a science, it's an art. It is very pragmatic. You have to have a very pragmatic view, because if you are doing business in India, you sure should know whether India has democracy or it has communism, or communist dictatorship or democracy dictatorship. So this kind of social, how do you call, this kind of social awareness is very important for you to run a business in India. And The reason why many of the foreign companies are not able to do successful business in India is because they do not know the pulse of Indians or the pulse of social setup or network of India. For example, there was a donut company. Donut is like looking like vada, but it is very sweet. No, donut. Everybody knows, of course. So there was a company, donut company, which came into India, and they launched donuts as breakfast. Can you imagine eating breakfast with donut? That is, if you think that donut is a breakfast, I would say it's a big failure in India. Even if you take all the rich 5% of Indians, go and consume donut, then also it's not going to make sense for starting a company making donut as breakfast for India. No, we're not going to change. We have idli, we have dosa, we have rotis, we have pav bhajis, or we have like hundreds of varieties for breakfast. And Indians are not going to change their breakfast culture into donut that easily. Even if it is a sandwich, we want all Indianized, customized, filling in the sandwich. We cannot go with just cheese or paneer. We need a lot of vegetables into it. We need a lot of Indian masalas into it. And sandwich is customizable, or it has been customized for Indian preferences, because only the bread is Western. Inside the fillings are all Indianized. But when you take donut, there is nothing to be Indianized, right? It is just a sweetened bread, or it is just a sweetened and how do you call porcha bread, that's all, right? So now there is no customization in donut, and that was a big failure in India. So any business that wants to come to India, or any business that wants to flourish in a particular social setup, don't talk about just India. You can talk about Ghana, you can talk about Africa. If you want to go and establish a business in Africa, you have to understand the African socio-political setup, economical setup, their way of life, how people function there. Everything is ultimately important for you to do business there. So you can't say, I'm going to run a telecom business in Ghana. Okay, so all I know about is how to do the telecom business, that's all. So I don't care about the African people. No, you are not going to operate in vacuum space. You are going to operate in Africa. And Africa comes along, it has its own pros and cons. It has its own people, setup, social culture, economical culture. Everything is going to be, imbibed into your business structure. So of course, business economics has to be very pragmatic, wider connotation has to be there. And finally, they're talking about positive and normative economics. See, positive economics and normative economics throws light upon so many things in reality, because positive and normative, as the name suggests, positive science is like reading, understanding, observing whatever is happening around you, whether it is correct or not, for your family, for your industry, for your country. For example, alcohol usage has exceeded 70%. Okay, between the age group of 16 to 24, alcohol usage has crossed 70%. Is it alarming? Yes, it is alarming. But when you want to take a decision making, and that too in the country level, you should know what is the reality, right? To know the reality, and when you're taking the sample sizes, or when you're taking the data, collecting data in your country. So when you collect data between the ages of 16 to 24 and the drinking habits among men and women, first of all, collecting data, observing data is very important. Okay, when you collect data that 80% of the people between the age of 16 to 24 are having the drinking habits, or they do drink occasionally, or chain drinking, or whatever. When you record the data, when you actually collect data, you cannot go and thrash at them. Why are you drinking? It's not a good habit. No, don't do this. You cannot go preach ethics into the community. If you ask me, don't you think economics has to be ethical? Don't you think economics we study as I'm sorry, it's not a language, but actually economics as a subject we study because we want to have a very healthy society, welfare oriented society. Don't you think we should also concentrate on welfare aspect? Of course, we have to concentrate on the welfare side. But before taking up a policy making, before taking a step against drinking habits, or before taking a step against the smoking habits, if you only know the actual reality percentage of people who are drinking, only if you know this real data, you will be able to make a decision. So when you are taking the data, shut your mouth, close your mouth and open your ears and listen to what people have to say, and listen to what people are doing, and listen to what, observe and listen to what people are up to. And this is the most important thing that we're going to do.